From cold case murders more than 40 years old to homicides less than 2 months old, investigators are working to track down leads and to generate some new ones, and they're hoping our viewers can help.
And that's right, we've got a lot to cover on this month's edition of Okaloosa Eye on Crime, so let's go ahead and get started. First up, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is still searching for leads in a 43-year-old Okaloosa Island homicide. 43 years ago, someone gunned down a popular convenience store clerk working on Okaloosa Island, but the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office says they're still hoping for a break in the cold case. George Myers was working at a store at the corner of Highway 98 and Santa Rosa Boulevard the morning of February 9th back in 1979. A customer who went in around 3 a.m. initially couldn't find the clerk, but went into his storage room, discovered the 56-year-old Myers on the floor with multiple gunshot wounds. Now, the store safe, cash register, and his wallet were left untouched, so the motive remains very much a mystery 4 decades later. Of course, anybody with information, you can contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers. Remember, it's 100% anonymous, could get you a cash reward of up to $3,000.
Now, this next case is one that I remember covering back when I was in the news business, and it's hard to believe that it has now been 32 years since 13-year-old Andrea Durham vanished from her family's Ocean City apartment near Fort Walton Beach. Investigators are still searching for answers. Andrea was home alone on the evening of February 1st, and when her mother and sister returned home, they found her purse and all her personal belongings inside, but Andrea was gone. Investigators say nothing was really out of place. There were no signs of a struggle, and although many leads have come in over the years, none have provided any solid leads in the case. So this investigation into Andrea's disappearance remains an open missing person investigation at the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office. If you can help change that, please contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers.
And keeping with the theme of cold case, information is still being sought in a 1984 Baker homicide. This happened back on January 12th of that year. The body of 34-year-old Robert Cawthon was found in a wooded area nearly 2 miles west of Highway 4 off Kaiser Mill Road up in Baker. He was partially clothed, had suffered a fatal gunshot wound, and his body had been set on fire. Cawthon's car was found behind the old cemetery on Old Bethel Road. Now, over the years, investigators have continued to try to generate new leads in a hope that this cold case can ultimately be resolved. Of course, if you have any information about this 1984 murder of Robert Cawthon, you can contact the Sheriff's Office at 651-7400, or of course, we give you 3 ways with Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers.
Now, moving up dramatically in our time frame, an Okaloosa judge has signed an arrest warrant for a Fort Walton Beach man in connection with a fatal shooting that took place on Vincent Lane, March 17th of last year. Sheriff's Office investigators are hoping the public can help in the search for the suspect. 20-year-old John Galvo Saab is wanted on account of first-degree premeditated murder in the shooting death of Ernest Riggs Jr. Witnesses had spotted a young man dressed in black walking toward the truck and shooting a handgun directly at Riggs, who was sitting inside the vehicle. That shooter, later identified as Galveo Saab, then ran from the scene. He did have an address on Patio Road in Fort Walton Beach prior to the murder, but left the area shortly afterwards. So looking for information on that, and just keep in mind always, if you have information that can help lead to an arrest, you can earn a cash reward from Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers for up to $3,000.
And next up, we've got an enhanced reward that's being offered now for information in an Okaloosa Island murder that we actually talked about on last month's show. Investigators continue to pursue information in the shooting death of a man whose body was found along Highway 98 on Okaloosa Island the night of December 22nd of last year. The victim, Christopher Menzies, left work in Miramar Beach that night about 9 p.m. He drove 2 workers home. Now, the second co-worker says he dropped her off in Fort Walton Beach about 10 o'clock, left to go to an unknown location. He was found deceased from multiple gunshot wounds about 45 minutes later, lying partially in an eastbound lane of Highway 98. The shooting appears to have taken place at that location. The victim was known to drive a gray 2008 Honda Odyssey van, which was found by the OCSO the next day, backed into a wooded lot on Parkview Road. Now, whoever was driving the van left the area either on foot or in a vehicle, and residents in that area did not recognize the vehicle. So anybody with information, you can contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers. And of course, the Florida Sheriff's Association Criminal Apprehension Assistance Program has chipped in an additional $5,000 reward. So that's a total of up to $8,000 for information that might help break that case.
And we're going to move right into another big one. The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office asking for the public's help in locating 2 people of interest in a fatal shooting February 9th of last year off Lovejoy Road near Fort Walton Beach. 44-year-old Nancy Schreiner was found in the roadway near the intersection of Marler Street and Shirley Drive around 9:45 p.m. She died from a single gunshot wound to the chest, and OCSO investigators found evidence that dozens of bullets had been fired from multiple weapons. Now they're trying to locate 23-year-old Trevante McLaughlin and 19-year-old Jacob Gabani, both of Crestview. Any information on their whereabouts, 850-651-7400, or of course Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers. You can have 863-TIPS, you have emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com, and the popular P3-TIPS mobile application.
After his first year in office, Sheriff Eric Gaden says he's been able to accomplish virtually everything he had on his checklist for 2021 and sees exciting opportunities to fulfill his goals for the agency in 2022.
2021 ends with me being very, very proud of the goals that we set that were accomplished. One of the biggest things was being able to do the dedication for the Larry Ashley Training Complex, but then to be able to do a proper dedication, which was a great send-off to an incredible sheriff that gave so much to this community for 3 decades, over 3 decades of service. The cadet program, it kind of goes part and parcel with the recruitment and retention efforts that we have. We have struggled, like every law enforcement agency, with recruitment and retention and filling those vacancies that are desperately needed here in law enforcement, where we actually not just sponsor them to go to the academy, but we actually give them a way to earn a living while they're going to school, so that they're not having to basically work 2 full-time jobs. So we had to do something to enhance and attract people to want to come into this career field in a challenging time for law enforcement. Another thing was Milo demonstrations we did. We brought principals from all the schools, as well as faith-based leaders, and that's something that I'm going to also build on for next year. But the Milo is a force-on-force training where you can actually see split-second decisions that these young men and women have to make every day so that they can go home safely to their family. So it's an incredible piece of equipment that we have and technology that enhances that officer's capabilities. You know, at what they've gone up. Show you maybe SWAT demonstrations, let you shoot some 50 calibers. And we have some, I don't know where Katie's at, but we've got, it was just like losing someone in the line of duty. I know myself, I was a lot more out of Sylvania Heights community event. This was something that I had to put off, and I wanted for us to have interaction with that community where they could see that they could have one-on-one interaction with it, whether it's just to talk to us or to be able to break bread with us. We had hamburgers and hot dogs. It was a wonderful event. Unfortunately, I had to put it off a few months, but I was able to get it in when the wave of the Delta variant went down to a level that we felt comfortable putting the event back on. That was the first thing that I put on. It was probably the most rewarding thing I did this year. I really feel like that community appreciated it, and we appreciated them coming out and supporting us. We have a large number of overdoses in Okaloosa County, and we've done a lot to try and interdict that with recent seizures and arrests that were made throughout the year. But really more importantly, I want to nail that the relationship with us and the state attorney's office has been enhanced since Ginger Bowden Madden got in there in January, and we are really working well together. We have prosecuted numerous cases and arrested numerous folks on homicide that were drug dealers and fentanyl cases, and we've been successful in that. So I'm really proud of that, and that's something we're going to continue to pursue, because you know we've got to do something to stop this chain, and arresting the user is not the answer. So community policing, that was one of the last things that I had on my bucket list for the year 2021, and we were able to secure a bloodhound dog. That we're going to have a community policing bloodhound handler, and we've already got the dog earmarked. Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office was kind enough to give us one of their beautiful male puppies out of their litter. We're going to have a lot of fun with that in the coming 2022. I mean, it's an incredible piece of equipment that I think is critical to the public knowing that we're doing everything and anything we can to make the right decisions to be safe and to keep our public safe. We have something else called Star Chase, where we're going to be able to actually follow a vehicle safely and use technology to be able to GPS locate these vehicles when they run from us. So lots of stuff that's exciting in 2022 coming. We're rolling with those punches, and but I think 2021 went as well as I possibly could expect, probably better. And so I think that things are going well for the Sheriff's Office. So look forward to 2022.
So good job there. We're going to move now into our first rundown on fugitives that are being searched for. The first on the list is Khalil Staley. He's being sought by the Walton County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Marshal Service for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and firing a weapon into an occupied vehicle. These charges stem from a shooting January 10th of 2021 that left an innocent Defuniak Springs wife and mother paralyzed.
Next up, it's another new face, although we don't have a photo available. That's 29-year-old Kais Lavon Maston. He's wanted for lewd and lascivious behavior.
And right up top, Jesse Jeremiah Gainey, we can say, has been located since last show.
But we're still searching for 33-year-old Ann Margaret Mary Marsh. She's wanted for failure to appear for theft and elderly abuse, last known to live on Madeline's Path over in Fort Walton Beach.
Contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers if you have any information on where to locate Jeffrey Wade Boone. Unfortunately, we don't have a picture of him available, but he's a 32-year-old white male who's wanted for sexual battery on a child under 12, and he was last known to live over on 6th Avenue.
51-year-old Tanya Denise Curry. She's last known to live on Colonial Drive in Fort Walton Beach. She's being sought for sale of cocaine.
Oh, and another update for David McLeod, who he has been located since our last show.
Still looking for Donald Joe Mitchell. He's 69 years old. He's wanted for DUI as well as driving while license suspended or revoked, and he was last known to live in Navarre.
Andre Arzel Mondine, we don't have a photo available, but he's a 39-year-old black male. He's wanted for domestic violence battery by strangulation.
Okaloosa deputies are searching for 51-year-old Tad Keith Bowers for violation of probation on the original charge of child neglect.
Law enforcement is also looking for Seth Dominic McDonald. McDonald's wanted for possession of heroin, cocaine, and drug equipment. Last known address was on Benning Drive in Destin.
Over to Walton County now. They are searching for Robert Wayne Maxwell for threats, extortion, as well as cyberstalking. He was last known to live in Pensacola.
And take a look at Clifton Ray Edwards. Edwards was wanted for felony VOP for carrying a concealed weapon.
51-year-old Angela Dawn Tripp. She's wanted for failure to appear for exploitation of elderly, last known to live on Crown Creek Circle up in Crestview.
Scott Daniel Sconyers was last known to live in Destin. He's wanted for VOP, DUI, and fleeing and eluding.
We're still searching for 30-year-old Anthony Michael Frodely. He's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, as well as providing false information to a pawnbroker, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
And last up on this list, Brandon Dalton West. We don't have a picture available on him, but West is wanted for sexual assault.
Ever fallen for someone that you met online but never in person? And at some point in that online relationship, did you get hit up for money with elaborate sob stories?
Well, here's a news flash. That happens all the time, and odds are it's going to be a romance scam. In an effort to show potential victims how these con artists operate, we recently talked to a trusting woman in her 70s who's now out tens of thousands of dollars, and she's asked not to be identified, so we have altered her voice.
And her romance scam case started by the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office has now gone federal, and there's plenty other potential victims can learn from her experience.
Now, here's part one of a two-part rundown.
We started talking in May 2 years ago, and he would call me as well as text me. He was a solar contractor in Phoenix, Arizona. He worked for a Turkish company, And in order to get his $2 million payoff, he had to go to Turkey. Once he got to Turkey, he went somewhere, went to the bathroom or whatever, and lost his bag that had his passport and money and all that good stuff in it. So he asked me for $5,000, and I sent it through an intermediary in Florida. We continued to talk and stuff. He needed a place to stay, so he needed another $5,000 for a hotel room, which I sent. Well, I figured once he got back from Turkey, we could, he was going to be retired, and, we could go places, travel.
Talking to her, listening to her story, this is a classic case of social engineering. At first she's like, I'm not giving anybody any money. This is, I just want a travel partner. And, then their relationship builds and builds and builds. And then slowly he develops this bond with her where she feels like she really cares for him and wants to help him, and starts sending him money. This is the first time it happens to you. You give away the money, then you enter a list for these scammers on the dark web that, hey, this person was I got this much money from this person, they go on the list. And so, come back to them later when they've replenished their bank account. And that's why you want to change your phone numbers, you want to change your email stuff, you want to change your social media if something like this happens to you, because you want to take yourself off of everybody's radar.
He was a very, very nice looking man. That he was a ship's captain on his way to Greenland from Norway. And he was the captain. It was his ship. Not that he owned it, but he rented it to take some stuff from Norway to Greenland. Could not talk to him because he said at one time back in the 90s, he had been, pirates had gotten to him, his ship. So there was no talking.
You developed that relationship with him. How frequently did you text with him? Was it a daily?
Oh, several times a day. I thought he was going to be fine.
Did you foresee a relationship with him in the future?
Yes.
And did he speak to you about having a relationship?
He asked me a half a dozen times, said that I would be his wife probably half a dozen times.
The saddest thing is with most of these type of cases is that they're elderly, they're afraid of being thought of as feeble or unable to make their own decisions, financial decisions, and that's not the case. What happened to them is they've been social engineered, and once that person starts taking their money and information, they're almost invested in this relationship because they've given that money. And so it's really kind of sad, but they kind of want it to be true because, the alternative means they've been had, and nobody wants that.
How much do you think you sent to him?
Well, I sent 20,000, and I sent 5,000. I sent several cards.
What was your reaction when you found out that he was an imposter, a con man?
I had really, really, really hoped that that would be somebody that I could have contact with and go places with, and because when my husband retired, that's sort of going to get a camper and travel.
And now it's time for our second list of wanted fugitives we're hoping maybe you can help law enforcement find. We do want to remind you they are wanted as of today's taping date, which is February 3rd, 2022. First up, we've got some good news, and that is that Prince Martell purse has been located since our last show.
We'd still like to find, though, Alyssa Victoria Hibberts. She's wanted for VOP for child neglect and possession of cocaine, last known to live over in Pensacola.
New face to the show this month, that's Janelle Eileen Navarro. She's 37. She's wanted for felony violation of probation for 4 counts of sell, manufacture, or deliver narcotics.
Cheyenne Lee Gentry up next, wanted for VOP for possession of methamphetamine. Gentry's last known address was on Oak Terrace Drive in Crestview.
Deputies are still searching for James Clinton Brinkley Jr. He was last known to live in Pensacola. He's being sought for violation of probation for battery.
Another narcotics case, this one involving Justin Rafael Diaz. He's wanted for felony possession of meth with intent to sell and possession of heroin, last known to live in Destin.
And we don't have a photo of 44-year-old Kelvin Paul Michael Weiss, but we're hoping somebody might know where he is. He's wanted for sexual battery.
Next up is Joseph Lee Fairchild. Fairchild's wanted for VOP for aggravated assault.
David Allen Bobbitt, who's 45, he's wanted for fraud.
Would love to find out where Thomas Edward Allison is. He's wanted for failure to appear for aggravated assault on a person 65 or older and last known to live in Destin.
Walton County deputies are still searching for Mark Robert Fitzgerald for grand theft of a person 65 or older, money laundering, as well as organized fraud, last known to live over in Santa Rosa Beach.
And this is Daniel Robert Turner O'Rourke. O'Rourke's wanted for felony failure to appear for grand theft and criminal mischief, last known to live in Crestview.
This one's been on the show for a while. That's 51-year-old Clayton McCree Copeland. He's being sought for violation of probation for providing false information to a pawnbroker and grand theft of a motor vehicle, last known to live in Destin.
Jerry Daniel Beavers wanted for VOP for possession of methamphetamine and driving with his license suspended or revoked. Beavers' last known address was Boyce Drive in Shalimar.
Coretta LaDon James, she's wanted for failure to appear for grand theft and fraud, last known to live on Wilson Street in Crestview.
And Alexander James Boss was last known to have an address on Wyndham Avenue in Fort Walton Beach. Boss is wanted for fraud.
39-year-old David Richard Abbott, he's wanted for felony failure to appear for resisting arrest without violence and possession of a controlled substance, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
And wrapping up list 2 is Tyrone Mandrell Frost. Frost wanted for VOP for burglary. Last known address was on Greenwood Street in Fort Walton Beach.
Well, another member of the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office Marine Unit has captured a national award from Mothers Against Drunk Drivers after being named MADD's National Law Enforcement Officer of the Month.
That's right, and that's going to be Deputy Dan Williams. He was honored for his outstanding efforts cracking down on boating under the influence. You may remember that OCSO Marine Unit Sergeant Kyle Corbett also earned this award last fall. Okaloosa County, by the way, has ranked #1 in BUI arrests in the state of Florida the past 2 years in a row.
Hi, my name is Alex Oddie, and I'm the National President of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I wanted to take a moment to congratulate Deputy Daniel Williams with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office for being named MADD's Law Enforcement Officer of the Month for the month of November. Deputy Williams works with the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office Marine Unit and specializes in BUI enforcement. As a victim of boating under the influence, we all know that boating and drinking do not go hand in hand. And I'm so thankful for Deputy Williams' dedication to saving lives both on the roadways and on the water in Florida. Thank you so much, Deputy Williams, and congratulations on this much-deserved recognition.
Yeah, congratulations.
Now we've got another group of folks that we're hoping maybe you can help us find. We're going to start out with 47-year-old Leon Leslie Chandler. He's wanted for violation of probation for driving while license suspended or revoked and possession of weapon or ammo by a convicted felon. He was last known to live on Ashley Lane in Fort Walton Beach.
26-year-old Brian Castillo wanted for failure to appear for lewd behavior on a victim 12 to 14. Castillo was last known to live on Tyner Street in Fort Walton Beach.
Another addition to this month's show is 28-year-old Michelle Alicia Fortson. She's actually being sought by the Niceville Police Department for felony grand theft and passing forged checks, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
Eric Clyburn up next, wanted by the Walton County Sheriff's Office for felony failure to appear.
37-year-old Timothy James Howard, he's being sought for larceny, resisting an officer in the recovery of stolen property, as well as failure to appear for fraud. He was last known to live up in Defuniak Springs.
No pick available for James Lee Burnett, but he's a 68-year-old black male, and Burnett's wanted for felony failure to appear for aggravated battery.
52-year-old George Monroe Emmerich II, he's being sought by Okaloosa deputies for violation of probation, for domestic violence strangulation, as well as aggravated battery.
And who might be the show's longest running fugitive here, Alexis Wilmer Mondragon, 38 years old, wanted by the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office for sexual battery, sex offenses against a child, and lewd and lascivious molestation.
And we're going to keep him on here as long as it takes as well. We're going to find him.
He's not going anywhere.
So one of Sheriff Eric Aiden's primary goals has now been established with the acquisition of a bloodhound puppy from the Santa Rosa County Sheriff's Office to work as an OCSO search and tracking dog.
And we're happy to say that longtime canine handler Deputy Tim Patterson is heading up the new unit. And the intense training, he said he's losing some weight working out with Roscoe Beauregard Parker, affectionately known as Canine Bo, and that training is now underway.
Dog seems to have the best combination. We want a dog that's going to be passionate and loving to our citizens, and then we want one to be able to work when required to try and track fugitives or someone missing, or a number of things that we can use this dog for. It could be a missing elderly person. We have that quite often, and sometimes it's in the urban areas, and those dogs can be used there, but certainly if they get out in the woods or in some of these rural areas, we'll be able to put this dog out there and find them.
His food drive is really good. His search is really good. His temperament is what we were looking for to bring him out in the community to interact with kids and adults and stuff like that. So we wanted to look for something that's very gentle with people, and he was just stood out the entire testing time, and so that's what really drew me to him. I am super excited working patrol dogs for 14 years, coming in and working a tracking dog to find people, find missing adults, find kids. Is just, I think I'm gonna have more fun than the puppy is. Being able to get back into the unit and work with the dogs again. So, and that's how I want to retire, do my 30 years and get back in working with them.
He has a passion for dogs. He still has canines, some that were retired with him, and then others that he's still purchased since retiring. His passion is dogs. He's a judge for the National Canine Association. He goes around judging, so he has an experience, a pedigree, and an acumen that nobody else at this agency has. He was a natural fit. He was the first one when I mentioned this back in March, when I mentioned that this was a vision that I had, was to be able to get a bloodhound for this purpose, to be a community resource deputy, and have a handler at the same time. He was the very first person that said, "Can I sit down with you? I'd really like to do this."
And we'll go ahead and warn you, you're going to be seeing a lot of video of Canine Bo because we are both big Bo fans
Yes,
here.
we are.
Both know, so we've got more videos to come.
And of course, we had another successful year at Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers. We had more than 1,300 tips thanks to folks like you out there viewing this program. That solved about 85 cases, resulted in 66 arrests. And of course, the civilian board of directors who makes all the decisions as far as reward approvals, things like that, they approved more than $22,000 in rewards in 2021. And of course, we already had in the month of January, we already had over 110 tips as well. So just keeps getting better and better. And thank you to everybody out there that sends in the tips and of course shares the information about Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers so that it is such a successful program.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Emerald Coast Eye on Crime. We will see you next time.